For decades, the Middle East has been, well, teetering on a knife's edge. And right at the center of all that tension is Iran. And at the heart of Iran, one man, the supreme leader. So what happens to the entire region when that central pillar is suddenly kicked out?
It's a question that sounds like it's straight out of a spy thriller, right? But it has absolutely massive real-world consequences. So we're going to walk through a very detailed hypothetical scenario to understand not just how something like this could happen, but the decades of shadow warfare that would make it possible, and the global chaos that would almost certainly follow.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's early March 2026. A joint US-Israeli military operation gets the green light. Its codename, Operation Epic Fury. The target is just one person, but the implications, they're global.
So, how would an operation this huge actually play out? You know, this isn't just about dropping a bomb. It's more like a symphony of technology, intelligence, and military precision that's been years in the making.
It would all happen with breathtaking speed. So, 5 minutes before impact, a massive cyber attack from the US military cyber command completely blinds Iran's defenses. Poof. Their eyes and ears just go dark. Then, at T0, fighter jets hit a secure compound right in the middle of Tehran. And just 10 minutes later, satellites are already confirming the mission's success. The target is neutralized.
And here's where you see the real strategy. The strike wasn't just on one person. No, it was a decapitation. The 86-year-old supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei is gone, but so is his defense minister and the chief of the army, who were all gathered for a single meeting. The entire top tier of Iran's leadership just wiped out.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that the physical strike is just the final move. The real work, which was codenamed Phantom Eyes, was happening for years in the shadows. Israel's elite Unit 8200 had apparently been inside Tehran's traffic cameras and mobile networks, tracking every move. But the final, crucial piece couldn't come from a satellite. It had to be a human source, a CIA asset on the ground, confirming with their own eyes that the target was in place. That's the one thing technology just can't replace.
But all of this begs a really critical question. How did one man become so powerful that taking him out could literally ignite a global crisis? To get that, we need to rewind the clock, back to the revolution that really forged modern Iran.
You know, before 1979, Iran was a totally different place. Under the Shah, it was a secular, pro-Western monarchy, but it was also an authoritarian state, held together by the Shah's absolutely brutal secret police, the Savak. The 1979 Islamic Revolution didn't just swap out the government, it changed the country's entire identity, creating a theocracy with a supreme leader at the very top.
And that title, Supreme Leader, isn't just for show. The position was basically created for the revolution's leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, and it concentrates an unbelievable amount of power. This person is the head of state, the highest religious authority, and they have the final word on every single major national decision. Khomeini took over this role back in 1989.
It's also really important to understand the man himself. Back in 1981, years before he was supreme leader, Khamenei survived an assassination attempt. A bomb hidden in a tape recorder exploded right in front of him. It left his right arm permanently paralyzed, and you have to imagine it completely shaped his focus on security, on loyalty, and on the very real threats facing the regime.
And this number, this is a huge part of how he maintained that security. 125,000. That's roughly the size of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC. And listen, this is not just an army, it's practically a state within a state. They control huge parts of the economy, and they report only to the supreme leader. The IRGC is his ultimate shield, his sword, and really the source of his power.
Now, a strike like Epic Fury doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It would be the explosive finale of a shadow war that's been simmering and sometimes boiling over for more than 40 years.
So, Iran's main foreign policy strategy for a long time has been to fight its enemies without fighting them directly. It does this by funding, arming, and training allied militant groups all across the Middle East. It basically uses them as proxies to attack Israeli and US interests.
I'm sure you've heard these names. You've got Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is a massive political and military force. You have Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and the Houthis down in Yemen, who control really strategic shipping lanes. These groups aren't just allies. They are, for all intents and purposes, extensions of Iranian power, letting Tehran project its force across the entire region.
And of course, looming over absolutely everything is the nuclear question. Now, the funny thing is, Iran's program actually began with US help back under the Shah. but after the revolution, it became the single biggest point of conflict with the West. The 2015 nuclear deal, that was meant to de-escalate things, but when the US pulled out in 2018, it basically put Iran and its adversaries right back on a collision course.
Okay, let's jump back to our hypothetical scenario. The strike is over. Khamenei is gone. What happens in the next hour? The next day? A huge power vacuum just opens up, and the scramble to fill it begins, all while under the threat of more attacks.
So on paper, this is the group in charge, the Assembly of Experts. It's a body of 88 really powerful clerics, and they have the constitutional duty to pick the next supreme leader. In normal times, it's a pretty slow, deliberate process. But these are not normal times.
The process seems clear enough, right? The assembly meets, they talk it over, and they vote. Simple. But imagine trying to do that with the country's leadership in ruins and foreign powers on the attack. This orderly process is just thrown into total and complete chaos. And into that chaos steps a leading candidate, Mojtaba Khamenei, the late leader's own son. Now this is super controversial. I mean, the revolution was supposed to end monarchy, not create a new dynasty. But he has one overwhelmingly powerful backer, the IRGC, the very same military force his father empowered for decades.
And as the clerics get together in the holy city of Qom to make their choice, the stakes are made terrifyingly clear. Israel's defense minister issues a public warning, which is captured in this quote: "This isn't just a threat, it's a declaration that the war on Iran's leadership will not end with Khamenei."
The crisis spirals way beyond Iran's borders, and fast. The assassination doesn't prevent a war, it pretty much guarantees one, sending shockwaves through the global political and economic systems.
This is the human cost in just the first few days. Iran launches retaliatory strikes against US and Israeli assets, and the whole conflict just escalates like crazy. Within days, over 780 people are reported killed inside Iran alone as the region plunges into open warfare.
And this chart. This shows why the whole world feels the impact. The Strait of Hormuz is this tiny choke point for a huge chunk of global oil supplies. As the war gets bigger, ship traffic through the strait plummets. We're talking from 100% down to maybe 15%. Oil prices would skyrocket. Economies everywhere would get hit. The regional conflict becomes a global economic crisis, literally overnight. Which leaves us with the final and most important question. The strike achieved its goal, right? It removed the supreme leader. But did it pave the way for a more liberal, more open Iran? Or did it just shatter the old order, unleashing a devastating war and creating a power vacuum that something far, far more dangerous could fill?